We're a group of companies that started off as an housing association over 20 years ago. So we've got around 5,000 properties that we have in the local area. But since then, we recognise that the houses within those areas in those communities needed additional support around things like employment advice and debt advice and sustaining the tenancy and things like that. So we have a number of companies now that support the wider needs in our communities. So we've got an homelessness facility. We have a domestic abuse facility that supports people who are suffering from domestic abuse. We have a drug and alcohol dependency companies, so we support people with counselling or medication. We also have the employability and skills arm of what we do as well. So that's another reason why a unique thing that makes it work for us, because we are able to put things like the follow-on supporting that we were discussing earlier. But also we have a construction arm to our company as well. So we build properties, affordable properties, which means all of those businesses have work experience opportunities within admin, construction, painting and decorating. Although we can do that, and that's brilliant, and we do make the most of those opportunities, we can't do everything. So there are job roles that we do need to turn to our local community to, our employers within the community, to ask them to share opportunities that our interns can be part of. So things like manufacturing, retail, hair and beauty, things like that we can't do. So when I was asked to share some of our examples, I cast my mind back thinking, what led us to be involved in Project Search essentially is what we deliver, and we're the host company, as Martin explained earlier. And it came from the top, and I know you mentioned this earlier as well, about it's about the passion around equality, diversity and inclusion that starts at the very top of the organisation and filters down, and that's the key ingredient, I think, for programmes like this to work. And we are actually ranked second in the top 50 UK inclusive employers, which I think demonstrates the kind of passion we have for diversity and inclusion. One of the things we've delivered this programme now since 2018, so we have had quite a bit of learning along the way, and we're nowhere near there yet. We'll always be on this continuous journey of learning and improving, but what we've found so far is it's really essential to have that person-centred approach and personalise the support to meet the needs of each individual, and it's that constant engagement around people, around communicating with organisations within our own organisation and externally. It's something that you've got to keep on top of all of the time, continuous conversations and communication. We've found that spending time encouraging people to feel comfortable with not being an expert, with working with people with learning difficulties or SEND, because you don't need to be an expert, you just need to get to know and learn about that person or that one individual that you're supporting. Do you want me to ask the question, Barry? Is that a mistake?
No, sorry, I hit a wrong button.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
So we found that by having those continuous conversations and sharing with internally and externally, you don't need to be that expert. We have the expertise within DFN, within our job coach, within our educator, that's able to provide that support for you to educate yourself alongside somebody else, and with that grows confidence. So once you've committed to provide an opportunity to somebody and taking them through that journey, it might be totally different the next time that you do it, but your confidence grows, and then other people see that confidence growing and then want to duplicate what you're doing. And that's why it's so important to keep raising awareness and the message. We are really conscious as an organisation not to underestimate an intern's ability, and to really focus on what their ambitions are, and rather than having a perceived thinking around what they're limited to. So we use assessment tools, work alongside the educator and the job coach to develop a clear picture with the managers or external managers, a programme that will really positively challenge the interns but allow them to personally develop and grow so they're independent in the workplace and can transition from that education to work. We share our learnings with the entire group, so we do lots of things to do that, and external organisations. So we do things like reverse jobs fairs. We hold our interns have set up their own Facebook page, which is an amazing success. So they've set up a Facebook page that they interact with daily, and they share videos on the Facebook page around what they've been getting up to that day, what they've done at work, what they've done in the classroom, what challenges they might have faced and what they've overcome, and that people really tend to engage with that because it's them who they want to see, not us. There are also 3 of our interns are also members of the Youth Advisory Board at DFM Project Search. So it's a national advisory board that they've got, and we've only got 8 interns at the moment. We have between 8 and 10 every year, and 3 of them are on this national advisory board, which gives young people a voice. So you can see how passionate our interns are at being involved in raising awareness. We do things like holding celebration events as well. So at the celebration events, we try and include everybody. So new interns, the current interns, parents, guardians, employers, the college, the educator. And we find that mix of people and employers and local community is a really magical ingredients, if you will, to making opportunities work. So as a result of the celebration events, we do things like press releases that raise awareness in the community. We have employers who are literally, you know, brought to tears by some of the overwhelming successes that they hear, and they offer placements as a result of physically seeing something and those experiences being shared. We also looking to introduce a employer advisory board. So all the employer engagement that we're doing at the moment, we're trying to join all that together so we can provide opportunities for like site visits, because it's really important. I know that someone talked about it earlier, I think it was Jason, who talked around being able to see, touch and feel where you're going to be working is really important. And sometimes when you have an idea of where you want to work, but when you actually get there, it's not what you expected and it's something else that you're looking for. So what we're doing at the moment is setting up this business advisory board so we can fetch all these opportunities together, hold careers events, mock interviews, site visits, things like that, and also provide us with real live job vacancies that our interns can apply for. So I am reading off notes, so you'll have to excuse me if I get a bit lost because I get a bit passionate about what I'm talking about and I lose where I am.
We're all for passion, Lindsay.
But we also feel like we're introducing a notion of moral obligation by having a diverse workplace, offering opportunities. So it's commonplace to see people with disabilities in the workplace, and we think, you know, people are marginalised at the moment, and they're even more marginalised as a result of the pandemic. And we really want to see that 5.1% soaring increase to meet the needs of the actual 65% of people with learning disabilities or wanting to move into work. So, as Martin said earlier from DFM Project Search, it is absolutely a team effort, and no one company or organisation could do this alone. People having clearly defined roles who meet on a regular basis, who have responsibility for their area, but all working together for that one aim, and that's to progress that individual into work. Now, I did think that you might be interested in what some of our interns are up to at the minute, what kind of job roles they're in and things. So, like I said, we had 8 joiners. We usually have 8 to 10 each year. And out of the 8 at the moment, we've got one who's working in hospitality in a local theatre, so as waiting on staff. We've got somebody working within our properties in our clearance and clean team, so he helps to empty the properties, get them clean, ready for the next tenants. We have somebody who's working in the youth sector as an administrator. We have someone in manufacturing, but is actually working in the IT department within manufacturing, but he has to wear all the RVs and all the PPE and things like that. We've got somebody who's working in retail as a retail assistant, and we also have one who's progressed into an apprenticeship already, and within our painting and decorating team, which is absolutely amazing. And our plan is to obviously progress everybody into paid work by the end of the term. So I also thought, I was asked the question, examples of what works, and I thought I'm going to take that question back to our interns, because who am I to answer that question? So this is what they had to say, and I'll read this word for word because it'll be very important. So, engaging and working with employers and meeting the interns to remove unconscious bias or fear of the unknown, which is what I was talking about earlier, about people feeling the need to be an expert. Listening to lived experiences and their aspirations can help engage employers, as they can see the drive that our young people have to succeed. So when we do things like the celebration events and the employers are there, they can see firsthand they want to work. They're really passionate about what they want to do. They can also begin to see the social value of employing young people with disabilities and opening opportunities. And one of intern in particular said, "Don't judge a book by its cover." So I think that better sums up anything that I was trying to portray earlier, to be honest. So that's it from me. Yeah. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me.
Thanks ever so much, Lindsay. That was lovely, and thank you for bringing these views from interns themselves at the end there, because that's really invaluable, as you say, to bring their quotes. And there's one thing you said there that I'm just going to chip in, because you mentioned uniform at one point, and perhaps when you were describing the role, you were saying he works in IT, but he's actually still got to wear the uniform. And I'm just reflecting back on something that I believe, who was it who mentioned vocational profiles? I think it was Elaine or Richard. So vocational profiles are absolutely key, aren't they? Do you use those? Because we found that some young people are able, through a vocational profile, to really say, you know, I never want to wear a uniform, or yeah, I love uniform, and I really, that's going to be part of how I kind of want to proceed into a kind of work environment. Do you use those profiles?
Yeah, and that's how we look at and monitor progression of the interns as well.
Yeah, great. Does anyone have any questions in particular around engaging employers for Lindsay before we move on, to sort of have either come up in the chat or openly to ask before we go forward? Just give you a minute. No immediate questions coming through. Hopefully people are feeling okay using the Slido, but thanks again, Lindsay. Really useful to hear about the range of things as well that Calico is doing. Great. So I'm now going to introduce Sami Zafir from Wakefield, who leads on supported internships and preparing for, well, she's the preparing for adulthood coordinator. And Sami's been quite important inspiration, certainly for me in Yorks and Humber, in relation to educating me perhaps about the shenanigans of how to use roles in the council to better improve employment for young people with SEND. So thanks, Sami. I can see your presentation, it's up nicely, and I know you've had a few glitchy problems, but I hope you're all right online now.
I have. Thanks, Alice. Thanks, Rebecca. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Like Alice has said, my name's Sami Zafir and I'm the supported internship and preparing for adulthood coordinator for the Wakefield district. So Rebecca, can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so at a tri-regional event last year, I had a number of delegates contact me and ask me specifically how I was able to engage our local authority to commit to and secure ring-fenced apprenticeships, work experience, as well as meaningful work placements for SEND learners. Now, part of my role is to work with new and existing employers to see if there's any scope for securing employment opportunities for our young people within the district. But what I'm hoping for is that this short presentation will offer you some guidance around attracting the attention of those individuals who have the capacity to make the key decisions around commissioning, as well as creating some purposeful posts which ultimately increases the organisation's reputation and corporate social responsibility status. I'll also cover some tips and strategies that will ultimately support effective engagement with employers, as well as key factors on supporting businesses to diversify their workforce and transform their culture. We'll touch upon maintaining momentum, but lastly, how employment forums can support your organisation. Next slide, please, Rebecca. Okay, so people want purposeful work. That's why organisations try to inspire employees with mission statements about the impact their work can have. I began by identifying the key stakeholders in my local authority. It made sense to me to make contact with senior managers in procurement and commissioning, as my thoughts were that anyone in this area procuring major contracts would also have links to independent companies and stakeholders for the council. And this could possibly mean that we could stipulate maybe a clause where the contractor could be asked to consider offering some work-based opportunities for our SEND learners. Subsequently, following lengthy discussions, it was agreed that this was a great opportunity to make a real difference for young people with SEND in Wakefield. And I can confirm that one of our major contractors, and this is just an example, Engie, who offer a range of services to the entire district, have a fabulous social value officer who I work with very closely, and we regularly have catch-ups on future planning, commitments, and especially around the contracts and any work that's scheduled. So as a result, many opportunities have actually been facilitated for our learners in the actual workplace, with qualified professionals undertaking jobs in maintenance, assisting the decorators, admin duties. There's meaningful volunteering that's happening for young people with really complex needs on projects such as developing and creating sensory gardens in the area, and so on. But in addition to this, I asked if I was also able to have a slot at our directorate management team meeting to discuss the possibility of not only securing ring-fenced apprenticeships and supported internships, but work experience and placements too. What I did was explain that young people with SEND face complex barriers. They face multiple challenges, including being limited to generic offers that are not always suitable, but the fact that they generally have a lack of employment opportunities in the world of work. All of us working within the world of SEND and those with corporate social or corporate responsibility have a duty to support young people with SEND and offer opportunities in order for them to move into some form of employment in the future. So, next slide, please, Rebecca. Okay, so any proposal you set out needs to underpin your organisation's priorities. In terms of strategic implications, the key points I included in my discussions when I was speaking to the directors was based on some of Wakefield Council's priorities, which are mirrored in many organisations. The successful people priority, that's to seek and reduce inequalities and grow skill levels. Reducing poverty, so it's about supporting citizens into employment and training. Investing to save, and that's the efficient use of the public purse to support young people into a specific programme. Now, that could be taster sessions, lengthy work placements, regular volunteering opportunities, and so on. But what those would do is enable these young people to develop skills focusing on becoming work ready and even things like being able to update their CVs for potential employers in the future. So after sharing some of this key information, I highlighted the possibility of creating specific roles that have previously been disbanded due to the lack of interest or a high turnover of staff, because of maybe completing, mundane tasks, etc. But some of these tasks, if set up well, could actually belong to a broader set of tasks that achieve a singular purpose with a huge impact. And those opportunities have never been really shared with individuals who have recognised SEND needs. So this actually led to the directors giving me the go-ahead and work with the heads of service to look at the practicalities as well as key roles in the local authority that could be created specifically for individuals with SEN needs, and this work, I can share, is still ongoing. Next slide, please, Rebecca. So moving on to tips and strategies. Effective ways to engage in. You'll have to just bear with me, sorry. Right, okay. So moving on to tips and strategies. So this slide discusses effective ways to engage employers. So be prepared and get to know everything you can about your organisation, your local economy and the industries upon which your schools and colleges employability programmes are focused, and research the labour market to become familiar with your local industry trends and forecasts. I think Hugh mentioned this, in his opening. I found that initial visits to employer premises are the best approach. Now, you may need to follow this up with maybe a phone call or an email, but it does give a flavour of the ethos of the employer. Are the staff interested in the programme, so likely to support a young person with SEND? If that first approach doesn't feel like the right environment for the young person, then don't pursue it. Trust your instincts. It's important to have literature and an email with information ready that can be shared with the employer so that they are fully aware of who you are as an organisation, what you do, and having a young person with additional needs can support the development, both the development of the individual, but transform their organisation too. Make a concerted effort in getting to know the skills, the interests, and the availability of your young people and when they will be ready for particular experiences. This will help you target and sequence your engagement efforts and effectively match the young people to appropriate opportunities. Tap into local networks, careers events, open days to find out more about the local area and employers. You often get HR or local managers at these events, so make contact as they tend to be the key people to be in touch to try and get suitable placements. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. So keeping people at different levels engaged. Now, it should be recognised that not all employers can provide the same levels of commitment or involvement in a particular programme or initiative, but that any employer can be engaged in one or more activities if the experience is designed and supported with employer capacity in mind. Be mindful that employee engagement is not just one person in the organisation's job, but that it takes a concerted effort of staff and partners across the entire team. Share successes with the employer, the trajectory, the distance travelled by that young person as a result of being on placement with the organisation from the outset. Share case studies of other young people in other areas who have also been successful. With their permission, include the employer in marketing the success. I mean, they may want to publicise it themselves too. Share the benefits of how the placement can support their staff, transform their culture, improve staff knowledge, and help them to gain additional skills whilst working with young people who have SEND. opportunities to develop their coaching and mentoring skills is also good. And it's a great opportunity for those that are looking for promotion or progression into management. But always offer training to staff so that they are aware of the young person's needs and how best to support them. And, you know, this can be disability awareness training or specific training that caters to that particular individual. Next slide, please, Rebecca. Okay, so from engagement to building relationships with employers, placements need to be purposeful. State your purpose, goals and objectives to help keep you focused and on track with your plan. Ensure that effective communication strategies are in place and support communication amongst all team members involved to best support that young person. It's crucial that the team consider and are aware of any additional communication needs for that young person, such as it could be communication in print, font, coloured inlays, pictures, symbols, and the list, as you know, can go on. Prior to a young person starting a placement, though, the employer is likely to set up an interview. Now, this is good practice for the young person, but it also enables the employer to gauge how they communicate and interact with them. Brief the employer beforehand and suggest maybe 5 to 6 questions they could ask the young person. It's vital that the employer sees the young person as part of the team. So it's important they get a full induction when they start, and ensure that you discuss any reasonable adjustments that need to be implemented. It's also important to ensure that the employer is fully aware of the young person's needs, how to support them, hints and tips of what to do if something does happen. This needs to be shared with the manager, but also staff that are going to be working alongside the young people. Now, talk to the young people about sharing their vocational profiles. I know this has been mentioned a few times today, but the action plan as well with the employer, so it's fully transparent what their needs are, what they want to get out of the placement, and how they are best supported. Okay. Next slide, please, Rebecca. Okay. So continue to network in multiple circles to raise awareness of young people with SEND, being able to have more opportunities, and always consider developing relationships with a wide range of potential employer partners. Trained job coaches are in daily contact with employers when they visit a young person to coach them, so they're always a good first point of contact. Keep in contact and ensure you check on or check in how things are going. Any worries, anything new that they need to be aware of really helps to build good relationships. And more importantly, cultivate long-term relationships with any employer you engage with. Schedule in some formal reviews with the employer, and this can range from every 2 to 6 weeks, depending on that young person, their needs. But make sure that you can offer to sit down and review what's working, any concerns, how that young person can further develop in the remaining time with them, or even in the next placement. It's also worth asking if the organisation or the employer would actually employ the young person. Clarify that there's no pressure to do this, but if they had a vacancy, would they offer it? If not, why not? So that you can continue to gather information about what you need to continue to work upon with that young person. But the employers tend to value their input, and even if they can't offer a paid job, they like to feel the value of how they have helped that young person to move on. Next slide, please, Rebecca. Okay. So in Wakefield, we have set up a youth partnership 16+ employment, education and training forum. It's absolutely amazing because although it's in its infancy, we've got over 300 members that have joined within Wakefield. So the employment forum has been developed by partners who, not partners, I should say members of our NEAT strategic board, which I'm a part of, and we intend to meet 4 times a year. However, What we do have is a live online Basecamp, a platform which enables practitioners and employers to network, find their own opportunities, as well as update what they're able to offer, as well as promote any new initiatives. So it's really current and it's up to date. What it does do is provides an open space to share ideas and events and enhances collaboration, reducing the potential for duplication between projects and resources. What it also does is provide practitioners with up-to-date information in relation to support services and EAP provision, so education, employment and training provision, as well as new opportunities. It allows practitioners to gain insight into different approaches of work and benefit from others' knowledge and specialisms. It allows practitioners to share best practice and promote high standard impartial information, advice and guidance, consistency and engagement of young people across the partnership. It promotes joint and partnership working and fosters a supporting practitioner network. And finally, it also seeks to raise the aspirations of young people and support them to unlock and realise their potential. And that's it. Last slide has my contact details, so please feel free to contact me if you need for more information.
Wow, thanks, Sammy. And I know for one that you've put some really careful thought into that presentation to make sure it really kind of assists people on this virtual conference to see the pathway, and it's been invaluable. I've certainly learned a lot myself, and I love that emphasis on peer support, and you've got 300 in that group. That's fantastic. So I think last time I saw you it was growing, so congratulations. That work is really inspiring.